Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Without further ado, I would love to welcome Alexa von Tobel to the Startup Grind stage.
I'm bringing a beer up here because I'm having a beer. It's been a long day. Anyways, cheers, everybody. Thank you guys so much for coming tonight. Excited to be here. This is my favorite part of my job by far. So anyways, thank you so much for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. And happy summer. And cheers.
Cheers.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Alexa, for coming. We're really glad to have you. As I've said with every event, we're really trying to make this a storytelling event. It's kind of appropriate that we're sitting here in director's chairs, kind of shooting the shit a little bit. The idea is really to ask you some questions about the stories behind LearnVest. You know, there's a lot of facts and figures out there. Obviously, LearnVest has grown very quickly. Very exciting numbers there. But I'd love to start just by asking you a little bit more about, well, there are a ton of different directions we can go. We could start maybe with your decision to actually leave business school and start the company in the first place. That is definitely, I think, a decision that still a lot of people would consider sort of counterintuitive. Obviously, a lot of people in the startup community can really resonate with it, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about your specific decision and the factors that led you to decide to first sort of take some time off and then end up really putting all of your energy into LearnVest.
So my just 10-second background story, I grew up in Florida. I went to Harvard undergrad. No one in my family had gone to Harvard. It was like a pipe dream. I just decided to apply. After I graduated, I went to go work at Morgan Stanley. And I had gotten into Harvard Business School as a senior in college. So I ended up deferring. I went back. And in the fall of 2008, the world was falling apart. If anyone remembers, it was like December 18th of 2008, which was the day I dropped out, was pretty much the bottom of the bottom. So dropping out of business school for me was truly a terrifying decision. But I'd written a business plan for LearnVest. Our company, I wanted to build a program that could help any American household get access to better financial advice. And within, once we'd won this competition and we were in such a horrible financial market, I really said to myself, this is the best time to launch a business. When everyone zigs, zag. And anyway, so I called my mom and I said, hey, Mom, I'm going to drop out of business school. And she was like, thanks. You always keep me on my toes. She was like, Merry Christmas, Alexa. And I moved to New York and I had no funding. It was just me. And looking back, actually, that was the scariest decision of starting the company, but the best decision I've ever made in my whole life, outside of getting married, which I did last year. That was a good decision, too. It was terrifying. And anyways, I have this like quick filter that I always put decisions through, which is when I'm 90 years old and I look back on my life, am I going to regret this? And when I was in undergrad, I worked in the happiness lab. That was like a real thing in psychology. And what we did is we spent all day like tinkering and running projects to figure out like what makes people happy. And one of the things that they found out over and over is they would take 85-year-olds, 95-year-olds at the end of their life and say, what do you regret? And they never, ever regret anything that they did. You never remember the dumbass stuff that you did here or there. Frankly, like literally your mind forgot it. So feel better about yourself immediately. But what they would do is they would regret something that they didn't do. They would regret that girl that they were in love with that they didn't chase after. They would regret that company that they wish they went and worked for. They would regret the decision not to talk to their parents, X, Y, or Z. So it made me quickly realize, and frankly, that gives you like courage bullets, because I was thinking, when I'm 90, am I going to regret this? And I'm not going to regret dropping out and starting a company that I think can change Americans' lives for the better every day. I'm going to regret if I take the safe path, which is to be scared that we're in a horrible recession and to stay in business school where I don't know what I want to do because I already know what I want to do. And I wanted to start it. So it was terrifying, but it was frankly a very clear decision at that point once I put it through that filter.
I find it really interesting that with financial planning and personal wealth management, everything that you are teaching people to do through LearnVest, people would think that there is a big element of safety, of actually saving your money, not going out to dinner, not going on vacation. But your decision to actually start LearnVest in the first place is in stark contrast to that because it's a big risk. And I wonder if you could delve a little more into this idea of taking big risks and how it really factors into the whole idea of happiness versus sort of financial safety.
So quick show of hands, how many people in this room have already started a company and they're in the first like 6 months or a year of getting a company up? Got it. I'm going to say 15%. How many people in this room want to start a company and are thinking about it but haven't taken the jump?
Raise those hands high. There it is.
Yeah, okay. How many people are like on the engineering side or the technology side? Good show of hands. How many people are working full-time at a job that they're not excited about? Your boss isn't here. Okay, thank you. I wanted to get a sense of where people are so I can make sure I answer these questions. So your question was, starting a company is a ton of risk. First of all, I'm a certified financial planner. I wrote the book, Financially Fearless. I was really excited for it to be a New York Times bestseller. But yeah, starting a company is a huge risk. So I have a column in Inc. magazine where it's like really counterintuitive because I'm a certified financial planner and I'm telling people about how to take the jump to starting a business. And one of the things that allowed me to do it was I had 9 months of emergency savings. So when I was, working my first job out of school, I socked away like every dollar that I was making because I knew I wanted to go start something. And so I joked that it was like my emergency savings fund was like my Cinderella pumpkin fund, which at the end of that 9 months, if I hadn't gotten the company up, if there was no funding, I was out of a game plan. And so I will say that having a financial plan is really critical before you start a business. And I say this for a lot of reasons, which is at the end of the day, you start a business because you're passionate and you want to do something and you hope to like advance your economic future. On the flip side, not having a financial game plan of how to do that safely can be really dangerous. And so I always tell people, don't go jump off the cliff. Don't. I spent a little bit of time. I thought about all the answers. I wrote the 75-page business plan. Don't do that either. No one read it. It was just for me. Thank God it was like in gibberish too. But what was important was I had taken the time to figure out what was the market, where were we headed, what was the strategy. Because here's why. LearnVest is now about 150 employees. We've raised almost $75 million of venture funding. We're now executing. Our heads are down and we're focusing every day on making good decisions and executing. And it's really hard once you're up and running and have infrastructure to like wildly change strategy. So the reason I spent all that time thinking about how am I going to start this, I put about a year and a half into thinking about how to start it. So little known fact, LearnVest was actually, I founded it alone in May of 2007. We didn't launch until 2010 because I spent from May of 2007, I spent about a year and a half building a business plan. Then I went to HBS, got the business plan, then I dropped out, then I raised money for 6 months, then we started prototyping. And so it took a long time, and I like to tell people that because I want to help you. If you feel like it takes a little bit of a time to get something up or to get something started, that's okay. And I think what's important is in that time you want to figure out, all the questions that you don't feel like you have the answers to. I don't recommend that you go find all the answers, but at least know what all the questions are so that when you're in the throes of actually, fast forward 4 years now, building the company, it's helpful to have strategy. So it is a huge risk. I think it's important to take calculated risks. I'm a big fan as, a financial planner and an investor. It's all about taking smart, calculated bets. And I think one of the things that just preparing yourself to get a company off the ground is actually just about lowering your risk because you're being more thoughtful. So,
did you, in part of that planning, ever have sort of end date where you said, if we haven't raised money by this date, or if my bank account goes below X dollar?
9 months.
Okay.
That was it.
Yeah, so right from the get-go, you said,
I dropped out
like,
December
if we
18th.
haven't hit these milestones. Okay.
I dropped out December 18th of 2008. By June of 2009, we'd raised about $1 million,
Okay.
which gave us about a year and a half of runway. So I said, all right, we're going for it.
Yeah.
Within 9 months after that.
It's not like we're going to run this until we run out of money. It's like there are specific
milestones. And I do think milestone setting is key for everybody because it holds you honest towards running towards something. So milestone setting was really important for me. And then after that, we raised $5 million, and then we were in the game, and we could start really building and competing and all that good stuff.
Great. I'd love to change tacks a little bit. Still talking about when you were first launching the company, but LearnVest was launched specifically with women as your target market.
Yep.
And I'd love to hear more about that decision to sort of narrow it to just women.
Sure.
And then eventually get into the expansion of why it's not just women.
So I started LearnVest. It literally went in this order: content, tools, where you can actually track all your spending and see a full financial management center, and then finally advice. And the advice piece was when we actually connect you to your own expert. So LearnVest, for anyone who's interested in like healthcare or financials, ultimately when you're in a regulated industry, it's really hard to stand a company up. So my strategy from the beginning was to go out and start a content company, because I could start that for $13 a month. I could start, paying some freelance writers and start creating a brand. So before I had $1 of that $1 million of our first round, I put, a few $1,000s of my own money into just getting the brand up and running. And the content didn't have to be regulated, et cetera. Then we went into tools, and quickly the user, so we started with content. And when you start with content, you have to be really specific about content. And at the time, there was actually there were 3 or 4 other financial websites that were all over the map. The content was focused on everybody, and they just weren't getting any stickiness. So we focused on the person who ultimately is making a lot of the decisions in a wallet, which often tends to be a chief household officer, often a woman. Then from there, we built tools. Now today, LearnVest, adds thousands of users a day, and it's men and women, it's households. It's actually almost, at this point, almost 50-50 in terms of users coming in the door. Slightly more female, but that's because if like a woman buys a plan, her husband's getting on the phone, and we're doing financial planning for both. So we went content, tools, and then we became a registered investment advisor. And now at LearnVest, you can pay a subscription fee of about $500 a year. You get your own dedicated expert through us, your own dedicated planner, and then we do all your financial planning for you. So what we really are is a huge technology platform, sort of like Uber, that made getting access to a car, a driver, easier and faster and not more affordable, unfortunately. But we made it getting access to a financial planner more affordable, more accessible, and more delightful. So.
Yeah, $500 a year, you said?
Yeah, so it's
that's pretty
there's 3 levels.
accessible.
One is $89 for the first month. One's $299 for the first month. If you get a full financial plan because you have investments, it's $399 for the first month, and then it's $19 after that. And the goal is a typical financial plan is anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. Right. And so what happens is most households say, I shouldn't get access to advice, when in reality, everyone should have access to financial advice. It just needs to be more affordable.
Yeah, it seems in a lot of ways like you're doing what internet banks did, which is sort of get rid of that brick and mortar and just say, like, here's the expert directly.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Which is you think about the coolest thing about technology is that it just seeps into industries and just makes things go faster and better and stronger. And so for the financial space, if you have millions of dollars, there's tons of people that want to talk to you about your money. But most people, young people, and then most people across the country, are building their wealth. And so being able to have access to someone in an affordable, delightful way, we think of LearnVest as like a gym membership. You should be able to come get access and have your own expert. is exactly what America needs. And so anyways, that's what's so disruptive about what we're building. But I think what's cool for me is to be able to talk to people who are trying to, just like you guys, who are trying to build things, get things set up, to help you realize that everyone always thinks success is like overnight. It's absolutely not. It's 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time, and with thoughtful, measured bets. And what's really cool is once you get started, what you quickly see is once you're doing something full time, and then when it's 10 of you doing it full time, and then it's 100 of you doing it full time, you start making progress like at lightning speed in ways where sometimes I pinch myself because I'm like, wow, we did all of that this month. Wow. But that's the really fun part, is that the momentum builds. So I literally remember my first day of work, just me, like in my boyfriend's apartment, because I didn't want to move my stuff from Boston, and just my laptop. And I remember at the end of the day saying to myself, I accomplished more today than I had in almost a full month when I was trying to do it on the same side with business school. And nothing lights a fire under your ass like not having a paycheck. Don't recommend it for everybody, but nothing gets you going. And so yeah, and it really is the most fun. It's the most fun.
Awesome. So did I catch you say that you were actually in New York? You left Boston and came to New York to start?
Yeah,
LearnVest?
I mean, I couldn't mentally even handle the logistics of moving all my stuff out of my apartment. I couldn't. I was like, I can't deal with a move and changing cities and starting a company. And so I just left my stuff there. I came to New York, and I literally stayed at my boyfriend's apartment, who's now my husband, and just started building the company. I actually mentally was like, I can't even take the 4 days to deal with a move and to find an apartment. I got to go tomorrow, and we got to build. And I just started building, and then eventually I got all my stuff.
Awesome. I can imagine that the Alexa who started LearnVest is not necessarily the Alexa in front of us, especially when it comes to, I mean, I can only imagine you've learned so much in actually running LearnVest. How would you describe sort of that person who moved into her boyfriend's apartment in New York City, and how she approached starting a company versus not necessarily even how you're running LearnVest now, but how you might approach starting a new company if you were going to?
Well, a few things. I wouldn't do a lot of things differently, actually.
Okay. Yeah. You've done pretty well.
I wouldn't do a lot of things differently. There's definitely things that I would do differently, but you learn a lot, you grow a lot, and each phase of the company requires a different Alexa, if that makes sense. Yeah. So in the first year, it was get the vision out there, be really clear, articulate it, get your first 4 or 5 team members, raise money, come up with a game plan, and then it literally was every day, just make decisions and get shit done. The next version of the company was finish the product. We built our own financial planning software so that you can put in, you fill out an online profile, we connect you immediately to your own planner. They're available nights and weekends. We build you a complete financial plan. It tells you step by step everything you have to do, from your budget to your mortgages to your student debt. It tells you which dollar to pay things first. It tells you if you need insurance, what insurance you need. That's a lot of innovation. It really sucked, I think, half my brain out. And so then it was a lot about product vision, and then now it's a lot about really incredible talent. So we are hiring across every aspect of the company now, and this Alexa, it's all about strategy, communication, and talent acquisition. So it's really different than the person who is developing wireframes and building product and dealing with literally code releases. Now we're in the scale, build, strategy, board management, and every turn I have to do things differently. And anyways, what's really fun is it is a different job every 6 months, and I think that I have to think of it like that, or else I'm not going to be evolving and doing the things I need to do. And I will say that one day of LearnVest, when I was getting started, was like 2 weeks of Harvard Business School. I would learn more in one day because I was the lawyer, the janitor, the real estate agent. I was the hiring manager. I was the firer. I was the product manager, the marketer. I'd be sitting there and I was like, my brain, you know when you have a job where your brain's actually not being, you get bored? I have not had a single minute in 4 years where I've been bored. In fact, to this minute, I look up and I'm like, how is it 7 p.m.? Where did the day go? And I think what's really powerful is I think about the time that I go home and my brain is tired. I climb in bed and I'm like, I can't think anymore. Please give me like a cookie and a television show. Because I actually exhausted everything I have to give today, which is my like core mantra is take it one day at a time and every day bring 120%. Crush each day. If you crush every day and you only take it one day at a time, there's days where if you try to think about the week, you will not get out of bed. So it's really important just to take it one day at a time and come with the attitude of like, let's crush today. And it goes really far and you go home, you're exhausted, rinse and repeat.
Yeah. Would you say that, I was just thinking about you going home watching TV and thinking like, what do you watch to unwind? But that's not the question. You don't have to tell us that. I'm thinking
whatever is on the channel when I turn the TV on, because realistically, my husband's like, you didn't even watch the first 2 minutes. I'm like, what? I'm out.
It's just like a white noise machine.
It's like,
right?
yeah, it's exactly, it's a white noise machine. It's an expensive cable version of white noise.
It got me thinking more, I mean, you're out there, you're constantly pushing things forward, you're so active. Are there ever moments when you get a chance to sit back and actually consume content that's related to entrepreneurship?
Oh my gosh! In the last month, I've read 3 books.
Okay. Wow. It's more than me.
One called Who, which is around hiring. I read The Hard Things About Hard Things twice. Mm-hmm. I then read, and I'm almost finished with a book by Patrick Lencioni called The Advantage. Okay. So, and I will say I read really quickly, so I will just power through it. Like I was sitting on the beach for 4 hours on Saturday, and I read most of one of those books.
Okay.
That's not totally normal though. Sometimes I can't even read like a piece of paper because it's just not the priority. Right. There's periods where we just raised $30 million a few weeks ago, 28 to be exact. So it gives you a moment to catch your breath and then make sure that you're making the right decisions. And so there's periods where you can't read anything. There's periods where you should read 3 books. I mean, it all changes. But I will say that the lean startup methodologies are great. Steve Blank from Stanford Business School is great. I think, Ben Horowitz is great. That's the book, Hard Things About Hard Things. I think that there's a ton of blogs. Chris Dixon. There's a ton of really good stuff. And build your company. There's nothing more valuable you can do than build your company. One full day of hard work goes further than you reading anything, but then there are periods of time where it's helpful to just get a few different perspectives, because as the founder, you also have to decide which sort of style that you want, that it comes naturally to you and that you can really implement authentically.
Yeah. In those moments when you are going through a fundraising period, how much of your time as chief executive is devoted purely to fundraising versus actually running the company?
Yeah, so fundraising definitely takes some of my time. But we have a really talented CFO. He's also my first cousin, John Gardner. And what's great is once you really have a more formal CFO, they actually manage fundraising. That's their job.
Yeah.
So they prepare the models. I used to build the models, build the PowerPoint. But I'm still the person who's clearly articulating the 5-year vision. Here's where we want to go. I get out of bed every day because my goal is that literally hundreds of thousands of Americans can get access to a financial plan from LearnVest. It would really change the wallets across the country. It would change the stress that people have about their finances. And so that's my vision, and that's what I articulate, and that's why I get out of bed every day. And so, but what's great is when it's just you're fundraising.
Right.
And I will say, actually, until this last round of funding, I managed every single round completely, and only in this final round did I get like a break. And by a break, I mean I still did 50 to 70% of the work. So.
Got it. You mentioned the sort of ethos behind the company, the vision, and great segue to start talking a lot more about that, because it's not, LearnVest is not, as I would describe it, a sort of purely money-making institution. There's certainly a social purpose. There's an ethos behind it. And I'd love to talk a little about where that really comes from.
Yeah.
Was that a really integral part of your wanting to start it in the first place? Is there something about how Alexa von Tobel was raised that put you in that right position to have that desire to really tackle this problem?
Yeah. So a few things. So first, at some point, I think in my junior or senior year, I decided, I knew I was a business person. I had gotten into HBS as a senior in college. That was sort of a rare thing. I'd been an entrepreneur. I didn't know to call it an entrepreneur. It's really interesting, and this is the best way I can possibly describe it, but it like really was a big click moment for me. So I always had this restlessness to like build and create and these ideas always. I think like one of the maddest moments that my mom was at me was when I actually took art off the wall in my house and nailed it to my tree fort, because my tree fort then looked so much better. And I was like using it as an office. And my mom was like, you decorated your office, aka your tree fort, with like real stuff off our walls. And I was like, yes. And so I think I always knew that I had this energy, and I was only able to properly sort of define it like by age 20. I was like, oh, of course, I'm an entrepreneur. That's what this is. When you're just so excited to go build and create, and you have these ideas and you want to put them into action, and you're restless until you're doing so. And I was like, oh, I totally get that. So the first thing was, I knew I was an entrepreneur. I then knew, I love lots of things. I love fashion. I love music. I was an athlete in college. I was a platform diver, and I love fitness, but I was like, you know what? I want to do something that matters, and I realized quickly that I wanted to do something that every day could make everyone's lives better. And I only was able to connect it then because I realized my whole family was in medicine. Every single one of both my siblings are doctors. Both my parents worked in medicine. Like all my extended family. And I was like, I grew up with just this constant, and you asked, was there something growing up, with this constant just expectation that you could do something to make other people's lives better every day. And I'm not a doctor, I'm like the black sheep in the house. But they go every day to work to try to improve people's lives, and I have a lot of respect for that. And so at some point in my senior year, I decided to connect the dots to say, right now, 76% of the entire country lives paycheck to paycheck. That's bananas. Next, you add to it, it's the number one cause of divorce. The average household has a few $1,000s of credit card debt. They are in a position where they're massively behind for retirement. They have less than 1 month of emergency savings. And this is the average. I'm not even talking about people, really, really struggling below the poverty line. I wanted to call my book The F Word, because money is this thing that we're not supposed to talk about. There's all these social norms around it, and you're like, how in the hell are we going to get better at dealing with money if none of us have learned about it? I got a great education. I went to Harvard twice, never learned a minute about personal finance. And when I was working in the happiness lab, so this all connects. I remember being like, money doesn't make you happy, but if you're really stressed about it, it really stresses you out. So it doesn't make your life better, but if it's not in order, it can really ruin your life. And I was like, well, that sucks. And I quickly started thinking about what can we do to make this whole situation better. And I was like, what you can do at the end of the day is money's math. That you can give people access to a mathematical optimized plan that can change your life. It's that simple. And so once I had the idea, and I had it my senior year of college, I quickly started to say, I think this is the thing where I want to do something that matters. And so that's how I ended up here. It was a little bit of everything, but I do want to get out of bed every day and feel like I can use my God-given talents to do something that matters.
Great. I think you brought up sort of the psychology behind money and how people are really, it can really stress people out. I think you named your book Financially Fearless, and that idea of fear.
Because it would be sold in Target and Walmart. If it was called The F Word, I wouldn't be able to sell it in big bookstores. And I'm not going up against Target and Walmart, so we changed it.
I was just going to say, it does absolutely seem like there's a psychology of fear around money and a psychology that people don't necessarily talk about. But there's certainly fear of not having enough money, of not spending your money wisely, of sort of losing control of your finances, or God forbid, being in a position where you owe money and aren't able to pay that debt. How much do you see any aspects of that psychology in the software that you've created, or do you see people who are hesitant to take on LearnVest software because they're scared of what they might find about their credit score or something like that?
So first, a ton of behavioral psychology went into developing the action program. It's our 7-step program. There was a slide up there at some point, which was what the 7 steps are. And what's really great about it is a lot of behavioral science is in it. So like, we know how to motivate you. We know how to get you to, just like Weight Watchers came up with points, the action program is really powerful because we know how to get you to do what you need to do to make sure that you're protected. So first, a ton of behavioral psychology goes into it.
Yeah, I bet.
Second, I have been on the road as part of my book tour. I went to almost 20 cities in 30 days. Don't do that during January, during the polar vortex. But, you know, we've gone around the country. We read thousands of pieces of feedback from our clients. And what's really powerful is I've talked to people that are young, old, have money, don't have money, educated, not educated, have a family, single. Everyone's stressed out. I always joke, the one common theme is that everyone's feeling stressed about money. Money is one of these weird topics where you're never like, I'm awesome, because there's always someone who's better. There's always someone who's better. And so I think what's really powerful is we know how to talk about money. We cut straight to the heart of it. I always say, take the first step with LearnVest. We take it from there. We tell you what to do. What I love about our really brilliant product team and our head of all of product, Ainsley Simmons, is a really, she's genius, has focused on making it so that it's delightful when you achieve things. We send you surprises. It's amazing. And it's like, this, I'm dealing with my money. This is fun. And I just have really high standards for money shouldn't be this thing that we all have to deal with it. Like, no one in this room I can say doesn't have to deal with money. We all have to. We make 6 to 10 financial decisions every day. And we will deal with money every day until the day we die. I wish it wasn't true, but it's a human condition. All of us have to deal with it. So why shouldn't it be delightful? And why shouldn't it be better? And so that was my vision, and that's what we get excited about. And the final piece on that is, because we are so stressed about money, I also said money should be honest and transparent, and you should never go to be getting financial advice from someone who's selling you something. Imagine going to the doctor, and they get paid to like fill you with drugs and shots. That wouldn't make sense, and that would stink because you're like, I'm sick, take care of me. And so we wanted it to be the same way. We wanted it to be transparent, and so our financial planners don't sell any products. They don't get paid to do anything except deliver you fast, efficient advice, period.
And is that counter to the norm?
Yeah, it's a really big disruptive model, which I'm really proud of it because it's working, and it's exactly the way the internet demands, which is the internet. What I love about it is it's about transparency. And so we've made it so, you know, the analogy in healthcare would be if only healthy people got to see doctors. That's basically what wealth care in the country looks like. If you have a lot of money, you get to go see an advisor. Well, that's ludicrous. All the sick people, where do they get to go? Right. And then when you go to see someone, you should make sure that they have your best interest in heart and only that. And so that's what we set up. So we don't sell any products. It's all transparent. And I think that that's sort of my vision for a better world.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and jump into Q&A. Our first question is from Joshua Ness. Raise your hand. There he is. The question is, how did you come up with that $500 price point?
Sure. So the typical price point was, so actually, candidly, the first way I came up with it was I was 23, and I was like, I'm not going to spend $3,000 to get a financial plan. I was like, this is ludicrous. But then I was like, but that sort of innately tells me that I shouldn't have a financial plan, which sort of innately tells me that I shouldn't be taking care of my money, which makes no sense because I don't want to make money mistakes. And then I remember being like, this is all upside down. I was like, the people who are getting started should get access to advice so that they don't make mistakes. And I was like, this whole world literally needs to be flipped upside down. So first, I looked at the market, and the average financial plan is, so typically it's 1% of your assets. So let's just say you have $100,000. Well, that's at least $1,000 or more a year, and they only give you investment advice. And then typical planning is between $3,000 and $5,000 a year, and that's to build you a one-time financial plan that's out of date the second they give it to you. And I just said, well, this should be like a gym membership. This should be affordable. This should be something that's on subscription, so you're motivated to stick with it. And so that's where we came up with the pricing. So $89 is the lowest pricing, and it's for someone who literally is living paycheck to paycheck. We're like, we're going to fix that for you.
Yeah.
If you're not doing that, the middle plan is $299, and it's for someone who is juggling other things. So maybe you have a mortgage, but you don't have any retirement or any investments. And then the final package is $399 and then $19 a month. It comes to exactly $608 a year. And it's for someone who's got a 401k or got an IRA and juggling a bit more. And then we go to town and we give you 360 degrees of advice, and we tell you step by step what you need to do. We put it in order for you, and then we literally hold you accountable. So we're like, hey, Peter, did you do what we told you to do? Yeah. No, let's get on the phone. How do we help you? And you get the same planner. They're your dedicated expert. They're on demand. You get phone, email, chat, Skype. Most people want phone and email because it's easier. And then we get access to classes and all this other really great, super high premium content.
It's a lot more than just a software machine telling you.
You really get your own dedicated person.
Right.
The machine tells you what to do. The planner then tweaks it before you see it to make sure it matches all of your needs. Then you get access to your own dedicated expert, plus you, and by the way, if your life changes, if you lose your job tomorrow, we replan for free. You get married, we replan for free. You have a baby, we replan for free, and it's the way it should be, which is it's totally dynamic to what's happening in your life.
Great. Our next question is from Billy Jacobson. Can you raise your hand, Billy? Great. All right.
Hey, Billy.
And just a quick reminder to use the Startup Grind NYC hashtag, Startup Grind NYC, if you want to ask a question. So Billy was asking, was personal finance something you were always interested in, or did it stem more from the idea of helping people?
So I was client number one, quite literally. So I'd always liked finance. I ended up working at Morgan Stanley as a trader, which, by the way, the markets, like being a trader and personal finance, are two separate topics. They actually don't overlap at all. And so I remember being like, I'm working at Morgan Stanley, I'm good at this, why don't I know what the hell a credit score is? And like, how many IRAs should I have? And should I get dental insurance? And all of those basic questions, I just kept being like, why do I feel slightly ill-equipped to make these decisions? So I was actually client number one. I built the service because I was like, this should just be so much easier and so much more consumable. And so it started literally from my own need. And they often say, you know, the best ideas are, necessity is the mother of invention. Right. And it was true. That's exactly what happened. And then I think on the flip side, I love consumer products. I love making things accessible. I love making, and this is a hard challenge to make getting a financial plan something that you're like, hell yeah, I need that. Great. That's a big challenge because no one's ever actually made it accessible to outside of the 1%. So that's hard. And I think that's what's so rewarding is because this isn't like building a better t-shirt company. I would love to build a t-shirt company, by the way. That sounds awesome. Maybe
that's your next company.
Building a financial planning company in a regulated environment where I have to tell people that this matters is so much more rewarding because it's really disruptive. And anyways, disruption takes hard work. So,
are there specific regulations that you came directly against, or has the regulatory environment changed since you started LearnVest?
So there's no regulations we're up against directly. Yeah. The sort of things, so we're a registered investment advisor. That means every one of our planners has been legally background checked. No marks on their designation. Multiple checks and balances, bank level security. That's very expensive, by the way. Like all the things I just mentioned, just add dollar signs next to them. It's
probably a long process to make that happen.
It's hard to like. If we're Zappos at the end of the day, and I'm shipping you shoes, if the box is broken, if the shoes are the wrong color, I'm not going to jail. in financial advice, when I give you a financial plan, we are legally required for that plan to match what your needs are. We need to know enough about you. A lot goes into it. So one, that's what I'm excited about, is you get quality because we are held to such high quality standards. And what I'm so excited about is I gave a TED talk on this, and you can just Google Alexa von Tobel TED, about how if you could take the average American household, and by the way, no one in this room is average. We live in New York City. At our core, we're just not necessarily average. But I'm just talking about the average for a second. And you give them a financial plan. You can optimize in a way that's so powerful that it can change their life. They can be better prepared for retirement. They can be better prepared for their children's education. It's such a powerful impact. And what's really amazing about that, and what we get to hear, and one of the things I get excited about from our clients, is the joy. Because it's never just about money. It's about the fact that someone found out that they are dealing with, they got laid off, or they find out someone's sick, or they're dealing with elderly parents, or they're stressed about buying their first new home, and it's their first new home, or they're having a baby and they found out that they're having twins. That happened to 2 different clients this week. I mean, it's exciting. We get to see a lot of great stuff. But you're helping change people's lives. So it started because I really needed it. And then I knew it was the right idea because, I'm not building LearnVest for 4 years. I'm committed to this puppy for a long time. And I wanted to do something. That's my other best piece of startup advice is, I love fashion. I love fitness, as I said. I love design a lot. But I wanted to do something where I could wake up every day, even on a bad day, even in a polar vortex, or I want to get on a plane, I want to travel to where I'm going because I really believe in it. And I will say that I have a ton of friends who run different startups, and the ones that tend to go the least far are the ones where they wake up one day and they're like, why am I running a t-shirt company? I don't even wear t-shirts. And I'm like, well, that's a problem. And so I will say, I love financial planning. It's not sexy at all, but we're making it cool. We're making it hip. We're making it legit. And I think that it's a really rewarding process.
It does seem like a big percentage of your customer base are people in their 20s and 30s. I don't know what percentage,
but... no, actually, our average users are between average clients. So we have literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of users, between 28 and like 45. They are this audience. That's who our clients are. They're juggling everything from a first baby to getting married to going back to school, and they just want to make sure they're making the right decisions, and that's what we help them do.
Awesome. All right, next question is from Jess Goodman. Can you wave your hand? There she is. She's here repping Oatworks tonight, actually.
Hi,
you can thank her for the Oatworks drinks in the back.
Thank you so much. They look great.
Her question is, what was the most significant initial challenge that you encountered when first building LearnVest?
How much time do you have? We could be here all night. No, there's a lot. And you start to just let them sort of like roll off your back because challenges are happening all the time. But I think one of the most significant challenges, candidly, was New York is such a much better place to start a company than when it was 2009. There was no General Assembly. There was no WeWork. There was no Techstars. None of that existed. I was alone on my boyfriend's couch. I went to Starbucks. There were not a bunch of venture funds. So I'm funded by Excel Venture Partners and a bunch of now big private equity arms.
Even New York Tech Meetup, I don't think.
New York Tech
It was
Meetup
just
didn't
in its
exist.
infancy, I think.
It was me. So I will say that was one of the biggest challenges that none of you in this room would have to face, is that there wasn't an ecosystem, there wasn't a community, which is why I'm so passionate about giving back. That's actually why I'm here, on a night where I've got 400 things to juggle, because I really believe in giving back, because I think that the power of the ecosystem is so powerful. The fact that you can hear all the shit that I did wrong so you don't have to do it is awesome. And that gives you like an extra year of your life back. So I do think that there wasn't an ecosystem, and I will say that like the perseverance that it really took to get it up and running, my hardest by far of this whole company process was the first 6 months of just like going from nothing and up. And I think that's much easier today. You can go, General Assembly, get a cube, you're around a bunch of other buzzing people. there was no buzzing people. I went to Starbucks because I was like, I have to be around people. I'm going to go crazy. Working alone in an apartment, it's really hard to get energy when you're alone. And so there's a ton of really great things you can listen to. You can have a beer and listen to something like this that's really powerful. So
awesome. So we talked a lot about how your approach and your job evolved at LearnVest. Ed Jen had an interesting question. Ed, can you raise your hand? There he is. Oh, we're getting a lot of people from the right side. Ed's question is, how did your customer acquisition approach evolve as you grew? I'm sure your first customers were either friends and family or people you met at parties, or
yeah,
I'm sure it's changed quite a bit.
So first, we really focus on quality of delivery, as I said earlier. So 92% of our clients are willing to refer LearnVest because they're happy. So I think that the best thing possible is to have a product that really makes an impact. There's been a variety of things from we create content now that powers like 50 outlets. So LearnVest content powers now a bunch of sites from HuffPo to Forbes to Yahoo to Business Insider to places like USA Today. So just our free content all across the web now.
Can I ask what that means, that it's powering HuffPo and these other...
So instead of them building channels, they just take our RSS feed. And so we create about 8 to 10 stories every day of really high quality content. I actually was reading this story this morning. It was really powerful about a woman who was trying to save 40% of her take-home pay and then was trying to save 50% and brought it back. And it's just real stories of real things that people are juggling. Yeah. It was her whole financial situation. It was a first-hand account, and it helps you really understand just great, like that. If someone's juggling that, here's the things I'm juggling, and so we create really high-quality content that I'm really proud of. We've phenomenal apps. So like our tech team, 2 of the guys are going to come tonight, Kevin and Jeremy, who are stars, and they've been with us forever, and are right there in the trenches with me. We've done our absolute damn best to put out products that are 5 stars. So everything that's been in the App Store, iPad Store, has been between 4.5 and 5 stars. You can download our free Money Center and track your spending. So those are sort of our key focuses for customer acquisition. But then you have things like, we had a New York Times bestselling book. We have a bunch of columns in magazines from Cosmo to Inc. To then really big partnerships. So American Express now shares their content with their cardholders. We now have a huge distribution channel through the 401k space. So a company called Putnam Investments, they have a 401k product. With their product will come LearnVest. So lots and lots of smart things where you can just see LearnVest more and more every day. So every day, just making good decisions.
It must be so interesting now that you've gotten to this point to think about what's next and what you can do.
Once you have a product, you can do a lot of things with the product. Yeah. So as I said, every day gets more exciting for me because the job, gets harder. The challenges are bigger. They're more complex. They're more hairy to solve. But every day, the momentum is easier because now we have a product. Now we can ship the product in all these different ways. And
you have 150 people behind you who are all working pretty hard as well.
Who are working their tails off and who are so smart. So I will say that, and we're really thoughtful about hiring. That's one thing. We get a few thousand resumes every month. We're definitely hiring, by the way, across multiple roles. So if you're interested at all, when I'm signing books, just let me know, and we'll get your contact info. We're hiring on the technology side. We're hiring on literally almost every role, editorial, sales, etc. But we hire really, it's a very high bar, and we hire people that want to come work for 5 years, that want to, they're crusaders who want to solve the problem, which makes for a pretty fun working environment because we're all really in it to win it.
I can imagine. So you talked a lot about the product that you've built, and we have time for one more question, and I'd like to go to a question from Peter Sinkovich. There he is.
Hey, Peter.
He's actually...
Hey, high five, front row. Way to go.
Peter is also actually the Startup Grind Director in Greenwich, Connecticut.
Awesome.
So thank you. Peter's question is, at what stage of LearnVest did you develop and describe the team that developed the behavioral psychology behind the product?
So first, we had to develop a 7-step program. And This is such a cool question, and I think actually a story is getting published today or tomorrow all about the behavioral science in Business Insider, actually, all about like step by step what we were doing and what it does and how it changes your behavior. So at what stage was roughly about 2 years ago. So first we knew we wanted to take you. We can take any household, whether you make $50,000 or $500,000 a year in income, and roughly have you fill out a form and connect your account, suck in all your data, so you don't have to like print shit out, bring it to someone. I mean, that's like the days of yore. And then from there, we can be like, hey, you need to do 25 things. And let's be honest, if I tell you to do 25 things, you're not going to do 25 things. So let's filter them with the things that you're most likely to check off. And so I'll give you a quick example. If you go to like Weight Watchers, and I use like the health analogy because it's the same thing. You can't overnight lose 20 pounds. You can't overnight pay off $10,000 of debt. So they have you do things like clean out your fridge, because everyone can clean out their damn fridge. And so we start with things that are really executable so that you can actually go and do them. And then you're so motivated because you're like, awesome. And then we're like, save $2,000. And what's really great, and then we do things to motivate you to stick with it. So first, we wanted to build a service that could filter for any household and be able to give you advice. And also to service if it's just you, or it's you and your new girlfriend, you and your partner, whatever it may be. We can take both of you, and we can service one of you, both of you together, and then be able to keep you motivated. And so that's the really powerful thing, is how do we keep you motivated? And what's thing that's pretty interesting is right now our clients are staying subscribed for well over 2 years, and that's right out of the gate. So our goal is we want you to have a relationship with LearnVest for 5 years, 10 years. Stay with us. Anytime your life changes, we're there. We know all your information. You upload your insurance documents. Everything's in one place, and an expert just says, hey, this is what you need to do. So our goal out of the gate was, we were so thrilled with how quickly we were able to make an impact. And now it's, let's do more, and let's add more services, more features, but let's make your life easy and get you to do the things you need to do to protect your family.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alexa.